Energy Central Power session entitled How Digital Grid Management Powers the Energy Transition for Consumers' Energy. I'd now like to turn the floor over to our moderator for today, Chris Warren, to kick things off. Chris, welcome to the event. You have the floor.
Great, thank you, PJ. And I'd like to welcome our audience to the webinar today, How Digital Grid Management Powers the Energy Transition for Consumers' Energy. Like PJ said, my name is Chris Warren, and I'll be the host and moderator for today's event. The focus of our discussion today is going to be how a holistic approach to digital grid management is helping Michigan's consumers' energy provide reliable and increasingly clean energy to nearly 7 million residents. But before we dive into consumer strategy and approach, I think it's important to understand that the challenges and opportunities the utility is navigating are not unique to Michigan. In fact, it's fair to assume that many of you who have joined us today are facing similar trends and developments. For example, utilities across the US and the globe are working to integrate larger and larger amounts of renewable energy and energy storage. Earlier this year, the US Energy Information Administration projected that solar and energy storage would account for over 80% of new electric generating capacity built in America in 2024. Optimally managing large amounts of wind, solar, and energy storage introduces new complexities for utilities. Another challenge facing utilities is increasingly extreme weather, like the heat many of us are experiencing right now, and that threatens grid reliability. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, reported that 2023 saw 28 natural disasters that caused over $1 billion in damages, the most recorded since NOAA began tracking extreme weather in 1980. In many places, the grid itself is in urgent need of modernization. In the American Society of Civil Engineers' most recent infrastructure report card, the U.S. energy system received a grade of C-. This was in large part because much of the power grid is still operating decades beyond its expected lifetime. These and other trends are no mystery to Consumers Energy. In fact, Consumers is on track to close all of its coal plants by 2025, 15 years earlier than originally planned. At the same time, the utility's Clean Energy Plan provides a blueprint for an aggressive build-out of renewables. Consumers also remains determined to provide reliable energy to its customers, even as extreme weather becomes more common. Achieving these and other important goals, however, requires the use of tools to effectively manage a changing and increasingly complex grid. And we have three great speakers today who are going to help us understand how Consumers' long-term partnership with AspenTech to implement its digital grid management solution is helping it successfully navigate the energy transition. So we have a lot of ground to cover, and we're going to jump right into it. First, I want to introduce our great speakers today. First up is Alex DeCamp, Operational Technology Critical Applications Manager for Consumers Energy. In his role as an IT manager at Consumers Energy in the Operational Technology Critical Application space, Alex applies a comprehensive skill set that aligns with the needs of the energy sector. At Consumers Energy, he has demonstrated exceptional leadership, managing teams focused on gas and electric SCADA and smart energy, while emphasizing cybersecurity. He has over 10 years of experience implementing, upgrading, and supporting multiple SCADA solutions that meet the current and future needs of the business, including Consumers EMS, GMS, ADMS, and now FMS. He holds a SANS Global Industrial Cybersecurity Professional Certification and is a proud alumnus of Western Michigan University, where he earned his Bachelor of Business Administration. His professional journey reflects a commitment to excellence, continuous learning, and adapting to the evolving needs of the energy industry. Next, we have Josh Hall, who's Executive Director of IT Electric at Consumers. Josh has over 25 years of IT experience at Consumers. He's held various roles as a developer, analyst, project manager, and development manager. Most recently, he was the Executive Director in the IT customer portfolio for 6 years and has been the executive director in the IT electric portfolio for the past 2 years. Finally, we're joined by Sally Jackaman, Vice President and General Manager, Power and Utilities for Aspen Technology, Inc. Sally has extensive experience in digital solutions for operational technology. She oversees strategic customer engagement, solution strategy, and global growth opportunities for Aspen Tech's digital grid management product suite, providing electric, gas, water management solutions for real-time operations. Sally earned a BSc in Industrial and Operations Engineering from the University of Michigan and an MBA from the Tepper School of Business at Carnegie Mellon University. All right, so we have a great panel and a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right in. Josh, I'm going to have you start us off by giving us a brief overview of Consumers Energy.
Okay, thanks, Chris, and thanks for having us on. I don't know if this is a warning or if I should just tell. I mean, you got a couple of IT/OT guys on here, but we'll see what we can do. Business and technology tends to be blending more these days, but we'll give it our best shot. But yeah, speaking to your question though, of course, so Consumers has been around in Michigan for a very long time. We were founded in 1886, so we're coming up on 140 years here, and we've been serving a large portion of the Lower Peninsula of Michigan. You can see there on the slide, we service much of the Lower Peninsula, whether it's gas, electric, and we do have combo customers in that territory as well. Our headquarters is in Jackson, Michigan, which is where Alex and I are coming to you live from right now. Now a lot's changed in that. We have like almost 7 million residents that we service through this territory. Our service territory it's very expansive and unique. We've got lots of challenges that come along with that we'll talk about as we go through this. And we have about 8,000 employees and contractors that we use. We've got 7,000 megawatts almost of generating capacity. We've got almost 92,000 miles of electrical distribution lines, and then roughly 28,000 of gas distribution pipelines as well that go along with that. So there's a lot to manage and take care of throughout the state.
Yeah, that's great. That gives us a sense of just, I mean, Consumers is just about everywhere in Michigan, and that has issues and challenges that you're managing every day, and we're going to learn some more about that. Now, yeah. In my introduction, I mentioned that there's been a lot of progress made by Consumers in producing clean energy, and we're going to talk about some of the challenges that a shift towards more solar and wind and energy storage, some of that introduces. But first, Josh, I want you to kind of provide some highlights of Consumers' clean energy goals and really fill in some details about the progress and future strategic objectives the utility has.
Yeah, for sure, Chris. So we like to think of ourselves on the leading edge of this transformation to clean energy. In 2021, we released our clean energy plan, and it laid out a 20-year blueprint for moving, or roughly 20-year blueprint for moving off of coal, net zero, rapidly scaling to renewable energy. And it also reinforces the commitment that we have to our customers to keep our rates affordable. Some basic elements of this plan, though, are that we are going to retire coal by 2025, which is just next year. And that's a 15-year advance on what we first said. It used to be 2040, now it's down to 2025. And there's clean air, of course, water benefits, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions too that come along with that. And so as you can see, on the chart in front of you, as that ramps up to 2040. So, we're close to that 2025 mark right now, just 1 year away, but in between the 2021 and 2025 bar charts that you're looking at. It has a big impact, of course, on our generation portfolio. So 2019, you can, if you were to look further back, we would have 20% of our capacity from coal. So 6 years later, down to zero. And as the coal plants retire, we're rapidly building out solar, wind, and our energy storage. If you drive around the state of Michigan today, you will likely see billboards that have Consumers Energy on it, and it talks about how we are buying land, and contact us if you're interested in selling land to us. And that's because we're building out lots of solar farms around the state. Another side of this is our energy efficiency programs that we offer to our customers in our demand response. It's important for customers. It gives them control over their bills. It allows them to opt into certain programs that can reduce their bills, and it reduces their energy use as well. It reduces waste, energy expenses. In IT or OT world, we like to think of this as our virtual power plant. We can help shift the load during high days. Like this week has been very, very high, very, very hot and humid in Michigan. It's already Michigan summer, and we weren't even at the first day of summer yet. So all of that we use for reducing those peak emissions, or the peak demand, and reducing emissions. Keeping it affordable, as I mentioned, Clean Energy Plan keeps those prices stable. It saves about $600 million through 2040 compared with our earlier strategy. So this looks like a triple win for us, for our customers, for Michigan's economy, and for the environment as well. And the last thing I want to mention about the energy plan too is that we've got flexibility built into it. We are well aware that these technologies and innovation keeps changing rapidly. So the one thing we've built into this is the ability to invest in that, or to take advantage of some of those new innovations. That, battery storage keeps getting better and better, bigger also, and we want to be able to take advantage of that as we work through this plan. So respond to those emerging needs, adapt to changing conditions, embrace emerging innovative technology to achieve that net zero carbon emissions. It's that simple. Chris.
Great. Yeah, no, excellent. That's terrific. So we are going to bring Alex into the conversation in just a minute, but I want to, have Josh talk a bit about, how you're sort of taking, how it's. Sorry, let me start. Sorry, I got mixed up with my questions. How consumers, we're talking about reliability and resilience, how that's being prioritized, and what steps you're taking to balance the big shift towards clean energy while maintaining reliability and protecting against this increasingly extreme weather. There's two things going on here that I think a lot of people in the audience will really understand, as you're making a shift to more intermittent generation, but you're also kind of, trying to enhance reliability and resilience.
Yeah,
Josh,
yeah, thanks, Chris. Yeah, we are not immune here to the weather in Michigan. We had a really rough, as you can see in front of you, had a rough 2023. There was a really bad ice storm in February, and we had to answer to the commission, and as well as our customers who were out of power in February. It's really cold in Michigan, as you can imagine, in February, and so heating of homes and other things come into effect. And so the natural question, if you don't have that cold generation anymore, are you still reliable? Is it still going to be resilient? Especially a week like this, when air conditioners are running nonstop in Michigan, can we meet that peak demand? Those questions that we have to answer to our customers to make sure that we're still reliable and resilient. I spoke of the demand response and the energy efficiency things. If we can't deliver service, like the basic need, then they're not going to sign up for stuff like that either. So you have to excel at those basics before you can expect your customers to sign on to do other things for you or with you. The big service territory that we have, 90,000 miles of lines, 1,200 substations roughly, and we have to uphold that through this extreme weather. So we had the resiliency and reliability plan and roadmap that we laid out earlier this year. Extreme weather, we can see wind gusts on there. So wind gusts are increasing in Michigan, and our poles, we have about 1.5 million poles across that service territory too. I can't remember if I mentioned that, Chris, but keeping those things upright is critical to this as well. So wind speed averages keep going up. We had tornadoes. We had another tornado this year. Most people moved to Michigan to get away from tornadoes, and now we're starting to see tornadoes in Michigan as well. So we're not immune to that and either with the extreme weather. So the reliability roadmap, I talked about that and where that comes into play. we have two main goals on that reliability and resiliency roadmap. And the first one is that we want no customers without power for more than 24 hours. And we want no outage to affect more than 100,000 customers. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're investing roughly $5.4 billion to prevent and reduce outages. And this includes a lot of things that you might not seem like they have an effect on the grid, but they do. So fallen trees, broken limbs, forestry is a big part of it. We are proactively trimming trees. We are investing in infrastructure upgrades. We've got undergrounding that's happening. We are looking at iron poles. We're actually trying some iron poles now that have, much more resilient to wind. And the other thing that we're doing, of course, is grid modernization. So the grid is getting smarter and smarter. We're putting all sorts of smart devices out there on the grid. Line sensors, we've got smart meters, of course, at people's homes. We've got automatic transfer reclosers, and we've got a whole bunch of other smart widgets that are out there on the grid that are monitoring, isolating, and automatically responding to interruptions more effectively. The smart technology paves the way for electric vehicles that are also ramping up, new heating sources, and a bunch of other things that customers are doing on their side as well to help contribute to the power and efficiency and keeping them reliable as well. Asset management. Speaking of those poles, 1.56 million poles. I think I mentioned that, right, Chris? So we've got that roughly that many, and we want to know the exact location of them. We want to know the condition. We want to know, hey, what should we maintain? What should we go maintain first? If you look at the state of Michigan, you get different weather depending on where you're at. On the west side of the state, the winds are a little higher than they are in the central part of the state. I mean, there's vast weather between the tip of the mitten of Michigan and the bottom part of Michigan. So if we can put some strategy around how we maintain those assets, that will help us as well in the long run for reliability and resiliency. It's much better. Nice little IT parallel here, by the way. It's much better to fix things before they break than when they break. It's much cheaper. So same way. For the ITers that are out there, if there's any ITers that are on this call right now too, this is a very fun data problem, by the way. That's all it is. It's a fun data problem. So sum it up, our electric distribution system. I've talked a lot. Safely supplying affordable and reliable power to Michigan, replace poles, wires, undergrounding, make things smarter, make sure we can isolate, that we can send crews right to the exact spot of where the problem is. And if I boil this down, Chris, it comes down, reliability and resiliency comes down to our 5 favorite F words that we like to use, our 5 favorite F words: forestry, fix, fortify, fuse, and fractionalize.
Right. Oh, wow. That's great. I mean, I guarantee you there are ITers listening to us too. So I think you're safe in that assumption, and they'll appreciate the call out. So we're gonna shift over to Alex now, and I'm gonna ask you 2 questions, Alex. First is, I want you to tell us more about the smart device deployments that Consumers has completed. And then I want you to start getting us into the sort of digital component of this, the digital grid piece, and have you explain what you look for in a software provider.
Of course. So thanks, Chris. Just a couple of comments on the last slide, if we can go back to that around DERMS. So I know DERMS is a solution that Consumers Energy does not presently have. And as such, we are having to control all of our DERs, our distributed energy resources, in a piecemeal fashion. We have multiple SCADA systems for our wind parks. We also have a separate demand response system. So there is no single pane of glass view that can be leveraged for visibility over those DERs. We're struggling with dissimilar local control systems and remotely monitoring and controlling those assets centrally, as you can imagine. To take your next question, so as it relates to smart devices, we've leaned heavily into deploying those to modernize our grid and make it easier to monitor and respond to outages. If you look at the slide here, you'll see that we've had very few smart devices deployed up until about 2014, and then starting in 2015, ramping up quickly. And we've steadily continued ramping up the number of smart meters, our sensors, automation devices, et cetera, that help us monitor our system more effectively and optimize power delivery, solve problems quickly, and usually before our customers even notice. Some of those devices include capping controllers, line sensors, voltage regulators, and reclosers. When you have automatic transfer reclosers deployed on the grid, we can narrow an outage down to one big neighborhood. It's like having a circuit in your house where only one goes out and the rest are working properly. Now, as far as your question, what we look for in a software vendor or software provider, well, like any utility, a good software vendor is crucial to our ability to achieve our most important strategic objectives and overcome the challenges we face. We ask a lot of our software vendors, and we have about 10 characteristics we specifically are looking for. First one is quality of software. The software provided by the vendor should be of high quality, reliable, and efficient. It should meet our specific needs and be easy to use and maintain. For customer support, good vendors provide excellent customer support. They should be able to respond quickly and effectively to any issues or questions that arise. Reputation, a vendor with a strong reputation in the utility industry is important to us. For experience, vendors that have a lot of experience in the utility industry should and likely will have a deep understanding of the challenges and needs that our company faces. From an innovation perspective, a good vendor is always improving their products and services. They stay up to date with the latest technologies and trends in the industry. Of course, pricing. Pricing should be competitive and provide good value for the money. We consider the total cost of ownership, including the initial purchase price, any implementation costs, and of course, the ongoing operating and maintenance support fees. The vendor should be flexible. They should be willing to customize their software to meet our unique needs if they're required. Of course, from a security perspective, security here at Consumers Energy is paramount. We have several regulatory requirements that must be met, and a good software provider will be familiar with these and have measures in place to meet or exceed these requirements while protecting our company data. The software should also be able to grow with us. Should be able to add more users or additional functionality as the company continues to expand. From an integration perspective, the software should easily integrate with other systems that the company is already using. I'll turn it back over to you, Chris.
Great. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to have you talk a bit about Consumers' long relationship with AspenTech. You guys have been working together for many years, but it's also clear that you've adopted an enterprise approach to digital grid management using AspenTech solutions. Can you explain the rationale and thinking behind that approach?
Yes, of course, I'd be happy to. So an enterprise approach, it makes a lot of sense for us for three big reasons. It drives modularity, a consistent experience, as well as efficiency. So let's go through each one of those quickly. So AspenTech software is modular. That does allow consumers to layer on any additional functionality as required, demonstrating the flexibility that we're looking for in a software provider. This enterprise approach also supports a consistent and improved user experience. Over time, we've adopted additional systems from AspenTech due to the experience and familiarity that our administrators and users have with the software. The end users have the same experience regardless of whether they're using the EMS, the GMS, ADMS, or the FMS systems. System maintenance is also similar across all systems, from database, display, patching, failover, etc. Finally, the enterprise approach drives efficiency because of the lessons that we learn in supporting the multitude of environments and product suites Consumers is managing. There's enough similarity across the systems that we can reuse a lot of our processes and procedures that we already have.
Great. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna dive into the benefits. The benefits of an enterprise approach to software. The result, they don't just come out of nothing. And you've had a long relationship with AspenTech and their business OSI. Can you give us a brief history of that relationship and how it's kind of grown over the years?
Certainly. So yes, like you mentioned, we've had a long relationship dating all the way back to 2006. In 2006, we began with the first signing of a contract with AspenTech OSI to deliver an EMS/GMS system. That system went live 2 years later in 2008. That first agreement set the stage for a series of collaborations and growth that would span over a decade. In the year 2014, it brought about the first upgrade to the EMS/GMS system, significantly increasing our reliability and providing an updated user interface. In 2016, the partnership introduced our LVD SCADA system, initially to monitor our cap banks and DSCADA subs that further would enhance the operational capabilities for our control room. Later on, a second upgrade to the EMS/GMS system went live in 2018 that introduced new functionality for our system administrators. Of course, 2019, only a year later, was another milestone as the LVD SCADA system was replaced with a DMS system that served as a building block for our ADMS implementation. Going forward into the next decade, our OMS went live in 2022, completing that journey of our ADMS implementation. Going forward into 2023 and beyond, we're going to be doing another EMS/GMS upgrade system, and also signed a contract to replace our 20-year-old gas SCADA system with an AspenTech fluid management system.
Great. Well, I mean, just almost by definition, an enterprise approach to digital grid management is going to deliver value across the entire utility. That's almost inherent in that approach. And Alex, can you give us a flavor of what that looks like at consumers, and maybe talk about, Alex, you can talk about generation and transmission and distribution, and Josh can speak about outage management and the value delivered there. Alex, you go first, and then we can bring Josh in.
Okay, thank you. Sure. So I'll just go through the use cases and functionality of generation and transmission distribution, as well as some lessons learned and operator feedback we've gathered. I'll start with the generation piece, since that's first here. So monitoring the various data points of each generator unit helps to ensure that consumers' energy is minimizing any unnecessary changes. That in turn helps reduce the electricity costs for our customers, which is of paramount importance. As far as learnings go, it's important to know and understand that the various data points should function in the same manner from generation asset to generation asset. Inconsistent architecture from unit to unit causes added human struggle hours and the potential for not seeing or understanding some of the data being displayed. From a transmission distribution perspective, the ability to add line sensor, relay fault information, and line distance information on the SCADA displays greatly reduces the response time for restoring our customers. Consumer's Energy System Control Center has embedded line drawings, patrol maps, and wiring diagrams on the SCADA displays. In addition to critical customer and contact information, our operators use trending tools routinely to investigate outages, industrial customers, inquiries about utility or customer faults, and other system events. Consumers were constantly exchanging when personnel are checked into joint owned subs with a neighboring utility. So that also is another use case.
Great. Josh, you want to take us through a bit of outage management?
Yeah, I'd love to, Chris. Thanks. And so I talked earlier about the reliability and resiliency roadmap, and a lot of what I talked about earlier was preventing outages from happening in the first place. Like, that's the first, but it's really a two-pronged approach. You want to prevent as many as possible, of course, but when you do have outages, you want to be lightning fast, no weather pun intended, lightning fast at restoring those customers. So our outage management system that we have, it takes into account all of the smart devices that I talked about that we've been installing on the grid over the past several years. We were putting a lot of smart devices out there, but that's all they were doing, was sitting out there. Until we had that platform that could actually take all that data in and interact with them, they were pretty much meaningless. It's like the Ring doorbell I had in my house that's not connected to Wi-Fi right now. It's just a doorbell right now. So you got to get a platform that all these smart devices can talk with, and that's what it brings for us. We need the ability to send crews directly to where the problem is, and with the different smart devices that are out there, we're getting to that. We are getting faster and faster at restoration at consumers.
Right. Yeah, and that's the whole point. So that's real progress. Now, obviously, I mean, we're hearing about the many things that consumers has already accomplished and receiving, real tangible benefits, and those benefits are being passed on to customers in terms of service and decarbonization and cleaner air, the whole suite. And I want to get a sense of where consumers is headed next after all of this partnership has reaped a lot of value over the years. What's the plan going forward? Alex, do you want to bring us through that?
Sure. So as mentioned, just as late as last year, we signed that contract to deliver a gas SCADA software solution together with AspenTech. Going forward, beyond in 2024 and 2025 in the future, of course, as the needs of our business, regulatory and technology changes, we're always evaluating any additional components. As with that being said, we're currently evaluating the need for sensitivity analysis. That would be in addition to our EMS GMS system, ambient adjusted line rating to comply with FERC Order 881. And then another EMS GMS product suite upgrade that potentially could include the Voyager application. Would also include some virtualization of the hardware. To date, we've been using a lot of physical hardware, but it's dependent on the NERC SIP standards changing in order for us to make that feasible. It's never been cost effective to date.
Right, great. Well, Alex and Josh, thank you so much for your presentation. And we're gonna switch over to the other side of this partnership and talk a bit about AspenTech and get some of their input. And to do that, I'm gonna ask some questions to Sally Jackman. And she has the benefit of a view on consumers, but a wider perspective working with utilities across North America, across the world. And I'm really interested to understand, Josh and Alex just took us through a host of challenges and opportunities. And I wonder from your seat in this, industry perspective that you have, whether what consumers is navigating is similar to the other challenges and opportunities you see across the other utilities you serve.
Great, I absolutely, and thank you, Chris. First, I just want to say, thanks to consumers, Josh and Alex. This partnership since 2006. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And like any good relationship, I mean, that's longer than I've been married. So it's quite an accomplishment to navigate the years and the different challenges that the industry has faced and that maybe these projects have faced as well. For those folks that are new to AspenTech, I might just take a minute here to introduce AspenTech. So AspenTech has been around for about 40 years. They came out of MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, developing software for heavy process industries. And they have a whole suite of software that does things like planning, engineering, operations, and then maintenance, predictive maintenance as well. 2 years ago, we just celebrated our 2-year kind of anniversary of OSI, Open Systems International, being part of AspenTech. And so the former OSI business is now called AspenTech Digital Grid Management, which we're 100% focused on software for the OT, the operations technology space, for that electric, gas, water, utility industry. So just wanted to set that context here for folks. As we get back to your question about some of the global challenges that we hear of from our utility partners, as well as it really reflects a lot of what Josh and Alex have mentioned today. If we go to the next slide here, we really bucket these into 3 main categories. And this really guides everything that we do as a software partner in all of our products, in our services, in our activities across the board. We want to help partner with our utilities to, one, increase resilience and reliability, to two, accelerate that clean energy transition that's happening faster than expected, and three, improve operational excellence and safety, which is always a core tenet of our utility industry. And we can look across our software portfolio and say, you know, how each one of our products supports these objectives. And if it doesn't, we shouldn't be doing it. Because our goal is really to ensure that resilient, sustainable, and intelligent grid. You know, utilities are faced with all sorts of challenges today: the extreme weather events, the cybersecurity threats, the clean energy transitions that's changing the dynamic of the grid with the bi-directional power flow, and you know, decentralization of generation, and even grid modernization. You know, Josh mentioned Consumers Energy has been around since the 1800s, one of the first, you know, utilities in the world of, you know, where Thomas Edison grew up. You know, so these utilities have old equipment too that need to be upgraded, and things like underground lines that they're putting in are helping with some of that. From a software perspective, that's absolutely critical to tie all of these pieces together, because we're taking all that information and we're putting all that new data that's coming in, and that's coming into our systems to be processed and managed. This slide here looks at the digital grid management product suite. So when Alex talked about enterprise platform, this is essentially the picture what he's talking about. We build on our Monarch Core platform here. That's that SCADA front-end communication that communicates to all those different grid edge devices. On top of there, we have the flexible and modularity of the different applications, from generation management, transmission management, distribution management, as well as our gas and fluid management system. Then from there, we can add applications that go across some of these areas, like outage planning, switch order management, DERMS, distributed energy resource management, and our historian. So we've built this whole suite to really be plug and play and provide that one-stop shop for utilities to use this in any different way, this modularity way that's needed to scale with their business. Maybe I'll pause there, Chris. Sorry for the long answer.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure I didn't cut you off. So this gives a good broad view of, you know, sort of what a holistic or, you know, an enterprise approach to digital grid management can look like, and that's going to, you know, potentially vary utility to utility. When you look across the industry, what are the downsides of trying to navigate the energy transition without an enterprise approach to digital grid management, just sort of, you know, having a piecemeal approach?
Sure. Well, as you heard today, the complexity of the grid is growing astronomically at this point, with all the new devices and sensors, and there's new regulation in North America, you know, the FERC orders and so forth. This complexity is growing so much that it's hard for traditional operators to manage without the digital tools, you know, that are advanced enough to help them manage this grid and ensure this reliable and safe operations. You can imagine if you're still managing outages with Post-it notes on the wall, you know, that's not going to cut it if there's a major ice storm like Consumers Energy had, or a tornado. So there's a lot of different reasons and functionality that the utilities need to be thinking about from a vision perspective on looking at a digital strategy to accomplish these core objectives. some of the things that we highlight here in terms of some of the core aspects is really looking at a strong open OT platform that can integrate to your existing systems and ancillary systems to really create a strong, powerful platform. Best-in-class cybersecurity, that is absolutely needed here as cybersecurity threats increase. And this is software, this is how the system is designed, the architecture, there's lots of pieces that go into strong OT security posture. Looking at modern and open systems that can scale with your business. If you look at the DER space right now, grid edge DERMS, there's so many different charging platforms and in-home thermostat programs and demand response and virtual power plants. You know, instead of having a dozen individual systems that you need to manage, being able to aggregate them into a platform approach from a single and manage from a single console really makes a lot of sense.
Right. Anything? I have another question once you're done. Okay, I'll ask my follow-up then. So I think, you know, I imagine some of our audience will be hearing this and thinking about their own systems and what they have in place now. And what do you say to a question about what sort of digital maturity a utility would have to begin taking advantage of, you know, the real benefits of an enterprise digital grid management approach? And, you know, depending on that maturity, say you're on the relatively immature side, how quickly can a utility begin to realize some of the benefits of, you know, greater control over so much complexity?
Right away. I think, you know, a utility could look at this. I mean, these systems can be big. They're very interconnected. There's a lot of interfaces and processes, business processes, and change management. So you could get easily overwhelmed with, you know, making this a big project, or, you know, eating the whole elephant. You know, there's really a lot of different ways that you can stepwise build out a phased implementation plan and start small and scope projects to meet a few objectives, a few use cases, enable those. So you create an enablement journey, just like consumers. It's been close to a 20-year journey of enablement of functionality with consumers' energy. And you know, that is not uncommon. That's what it takes to really truly be looking and incrementally adding this functionality over time.
Right. Now, Josh and Alex, they walked us through some specific use cases, outage management, and other things that they're doing, and some of the benefits they're already getting through their enterprise digital grid management. Are there other common use cases and benefits that you see across the industry?
Yeah, I think that when you look at where we are trying to enable our utility customers with, is really trying to enable this utility of the future, because, you know, the utility industry is going under such a transformative shift right now with the energy transition. There's so many new areas that utilities are exploring. There's new business models such as virtual power plants. There's new regulation, new technology, you know, coming from the grid to the control room. Even things like artificial intelligence. You know, how do we leverage that to reduce the amount of alarms that are coming in and making it more meaningful and actionable for operators? So there's a lot of different use cases that we're actively partnering with our customers and utilities on, to ensure that we're thinking a few steps ahead to really ensure that, you know, our software has that long-term applicability and meets the needs of the industry, not only today, but 5, 10, 20 years from now.
Right, right. Well, I'm gonna ask you a couple more questions, Sally, then we're gonna open it up to some audience questions here. So please, if you have a question, go ahead and submit it, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. But a couple more questions for Sally first. Consumers is taking a flexible approach to their deployment of clean energy and their use of software. Where is AspenTech headed, and how can it help utilities take advantage of new technologies and use cases that are not yet mature?
Well, it's all about laying a foundation and, putting in those building blocks. I think a lot of times I use an analogy that our software, it's like building a house. You need to put in the concrete slab first. Don't build a house without a concrete slab. And so if you can, install the right digital technology, this lays the foundation for not only operations, but planning functions at a utility and customer-facing functions. We see, in the past, those functions might have been very separate or working in silos across the utility. And with the real-time data coming into these systems, that real-time data is really valuable for planning functionality and for customer management programs to dispatch events and so forth. So really trying to link that real-time data where it's valuable across the utility functions, making the utility more collaborative within themselves is also something that we're trying to accomplish with the data coming out of our systems.
Right. Last question for you, and then we're going to go to audience questions. What are some best practices you've observed, particularly around getting the most out of software quickly? And you talked about building that foundation. Any particular observations you have about doing that right and doing it well?
I think Consumers Energy is a great example of that. Is really laying out a long-term roadmap and executing on it, taking bite-sized chunks of different projects to be doing, sometimes in parallel, sometimes one at a time, and adding functionality over time and keeping upgrades regular. We really call that an evergreen approach to make sure that you're upgrading to add the latest features and technology. So like the ambient adjusted ratings functionality to support FERC 881. So there's always new features and functionality coming out, new cybersecurity features and so forth, that keeping your software fresh by regular upgrades and patches really does help the long-term ease and maintenance and resiliency of your system.
Terrific. Okay, we're going to now move into audience questions. There's a quick poll question as we jump in. So if you could take a look at that and submit your answer, we'd appreciate it. And I am going to jump into our question queue here. And so here's a question. You guys, the three of you decide about who wants to jump in and answer this one. Can you give us some examples of grid smart devices and their advantages? What about that? Who wants to take that first? Is that Josh?
Yeah, I can go ahead and Josh can jump in.
Okay.
So, yep. So line sensors, those are pivotal. They allow us to, leverage FLISR, fault location, system restoration, isolation, going forward. It really allows us to pinpoint as close as possible where an outage is at and where it's occurring, so we can direct our field workers out to the spot and not have waste by driving around trying to, follow a line, miles down the road till they find the break. Right, so that's one example. We have cat bank controllers, so that's another smart device. So you have the cat banks at the end of the line to help regulate the amount of energy it's making sure it's proper to the end of the house. The way that we used to leverage those is they were all pager controlled. We'd send out a blast group page. They were not smart. We didn't know a lot of the times if they worked or not. We hoped that they did. Replacing all those, getting that two-way communication back enabled our control room personnel to have that additional visibility.
Yeah, I'll pile on to Alex's answer here. One of the big things we're putting out on the grid is automatic transfer reclosers, so ATRs, and those help. If you remember my F word list, those help fractionalize. So you have an outage, you have a tree that's hit a wire, something that's down, you have redundant paths where the electricity can go, and you can really isolate it to just a few customers rather than the entire neighborhood. So ATRs are big. We are working to install a lot of those on the grid still, and we have in the past. There's still more to go. And then the second thing, another F word was fusing. So if we get fuses out there, and if overload situations happen where you have, and it's just pretty much just like your house, you have an overload on a circuit, you don't want your whole house to go down. That's why you have the circuit breaker. So a fuse acts just like a circuit breaker. It just isolates it to just a select few of customers rather than the entire neighborhood.
Great. We're getting a lot of good questions in here, so I'm going to jump to the next one. And Alex, I think this is directed to you, so we'll stick with you first, and Josh, obviously, feel free to jump in, and Sally as well. But when OSI software interacts with relays, and recorders, what kind of protocol and data formats are used / required?
So the OSI software is capable of leveraging a lot of different protocols. We tend to use the industry standard protocols, which is DNP3, that's more secure. It's the preferred protocol that we try and leverage across gas and electric. Where we can't leverage that, we still have some Modbus protocol, which is another industry standard, just not as recent, not as new, and not as secure, that we're leveraging. But again, OSI's products have the ability to talk on pretty much any protocol.
Okay, great. Anything else to add, Josh? I imagine that's pretty. That's
pretty thorough. That's very thorough, actually. I can't top that.
Okay, no worries, no worries. All right, so here's another question, Josh and Alex. Managing the grid assets and operations is extremely complex with numerous sophisticated software vendors. Integration of IT and OT systems is expensive and complex. What do you see as the role and value of standards like IEC 61968? Is that
I'm not familiar with that particular standard. It's generally speaking, having standards is a good thing. I'm not familiar with that specific one. I don't know, Josh, if you are or not.
I can't off the top of my head name that one. I mean, standards come out all the time, right, Alex? I mean, we have work to do to update or update or upgrade or make ourselves compliant with various standards that are coming out. It's a challenge. Yeah, I don't have a great answer because I don't know exactly what that standard is, but it's just something that we're constantly doing. It's just part of the long-term care and feeding of these systems.
Sure.
One thing I might add here, Chris, is that we're watching these standards, with our utility customers and making sure that we can adapt to support as the standards come into play. So for Order 881, which required ambient adjusted ratings, we developed a solution for that. For Order 2222, enabling more virtual power plants and distribution, market participation, we've developed a solution for that. When it comes to standards, one of the hot topics in the industry right now is the SIM, Common Information Model standard. And we are looking at that, and there's pieces of that make sense, and there's pieces of that maybe are longer down the road. So we're actively working with our customer community, our user group, to figure out, well, what really makes sense. If this is a standard that has 1,000 aspects of it, what are the 50 aspects of that really will be adopted that we need to embed into our software. So it's always a stepwise approach and something that we do collaboratively with our user group.
Right, right. Well, Sally, here's a specific AspenTech question. Why AspenTech Fluid instead of the AspenTech OSI, and I apologize if I don't say this right, Continua suite of products? Correct me if I said that wrong.
Sure. So you're talking about the software for that we have to sell into the gas industry. And so from the digital grid management portfolio, we're real-time operations. So the Continua product suite is the real-time operational applications that sit on Monarch to manage a gas distribution network like Consumers Energy. Or we have water utilities using our software as well. Now HYSYS and AspenTech, they do sell other engineering and planning software into more upstream and midstream oil and gas applications. And so that's a little bit different portfolio than the digital grid management portfolio.
Yeah, I'll just tack on there real quick, Sally and Chris. I think that question was kind of directed whenever I had mentioned that we'd signed that contract for a fluid management system. Just to be clear, it is for the OSI Continua suite of products, not for the HYSYS.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, so question for the consumers, Josh or Alex. How could you estimate that renewable energy in 24 reaches around 61%? Is that a Josh question or an Alex?
Yeah, I can start. I guess Alex can pile on if he so chooses. But we have a lot of modeling that we do, and I talked about solar, so I'll go to that. They are building 10-year plans for solar buildouts. There's a lot of work that goes. You buy the land, you get the permits, you get this, you get the. I mean, and so they have to really build 10 years in advance the plan of what that's going to be, and they have that. We have that up. We effectively watch and monitor that so that our solar buildouts are going to help get to that 61%.
Right. Alex, anything to add to that?
No, sir. I think Josh covered it well.
Okay, we're running up on time here, and lots of good questions. So thanks to the audience for really diving in and participating. So here's a question for I think Alex. I guess Alex mentioned earlier that Consumers manages numerous systems on a piecemeal basis without a single pane of glass system to tie it together. Will AspenTech eventually provide this type of capability?
Sure. So just to be clear, that was specifically around our distributed energy resources. So, you think of our renewables, right? Our hydros, our wind farms, our solar, our batteries, those kinds of things. We do not have a single pane of glass view that covers all of those today. DERMS is coming. We know that it's going to happen at some point. It's just a matter of time.
Right. Well, I think we are up on the top of the hour here, and I'm just scrolling through questions. And if we jump into another question, we're going to go blast through this hour, which has been a great hour. And I want to thank our wonderful panelists and their terrific insights. It's made it a really fascinating conversation. I'm going to hand it over now to PJ to bring us home.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, panel. Fantastic conversation today. Thank you again, especially to AspenTech for making this event possible. For our audience, look for an email from us containing the link to the replay, and take a moment to complete our survey at the end of the session. Your feedback is greatly appreciated, and we will use it for future sessions. From everyone here at Energy Central, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on an upcoming power session. Thank you for attending, and this does conclude today's presentation.